Yeah, I'll react to that, sure. All right, let's do it, guys. Time to learn. 30 Years of War. Fascinating, terrifying conflict. Not that there's an unterrifying war, but this one, the more I learn about it, seems to be especially brutal. And also has some great kind of military minds. Gustavus Adolphus, Tilly, a few others that I'm forgetting. Yeah. I'm a little tired. I got my coffee here, though. I'm ready. Sunday. Let's go. All right, I got to lock in. Time to learn. Original link to the video, top of the description. My name's Connor. If you're new, hope you're doing well. Let's get into it. Love epic history.
1618. Europe stands on the cusp of the most destructive war in its history. A 30-year-long cataclysm that will engulf the continent. Rape, slaughter, and rumors of cannibalism will haunt the land. War, starvation, and plague will decimate whole populations. Men, women, children, soldiers and civilians. No one will be spared. In a conflict that still casts a long shadow across European history to the modern day. Our video is
I played
sponsored by Europa Universalis 5.
Played a little Hearts of Iron 4.
Grand strategy game from Paradox that puts you in the driving seat of European history. We're using maps, music and artwork from the game to reconstruct one of history's most complex and devastating conflicts.
I can't think of a better channel to sponsor if you're Europa Universalis. Just so he can do exactly what he said there, use it in his video. I've seen more corpses than living... Jesus. I've seen more corpses than living men, more ruined houses than standing ones, more places desolate than inhabited. Johann von Grimmelshausen? Sure, I'd mess that up. Alright, lock in.
100 years after the Protestant Reformation split Christianity into rival camps, Europe is bitterly divided. Many northern rulers have embraced the Protestant teachings inspired by Martin Luther. In the south, most remain solidly Catholic and loyal to the Pope in Rome. Suspicion, unrest, and sectarian violence spread like a virus. In England and Scotland, Protestant King James fears a Catholic resurgence. In France, Catholic authorities are nervous about Protestant subversion. The Protestant Dutch fight desperately for independence from Catholic Spain. But the divisions run deepest in the Holy Roman Empire. This is not a unified realm, but a patchwork of kingdoms, principalities, and duchies, many of which will one day form the modern state of Germany. Voltaire later quipped, "It was neither holy, Roman, nor an empire." Instead, each mini-state has its own government, but all are overseen by the Holy Roman Emperor. The Emperor is a figurehead, elected by 7 powerful princes and archbishops. For centuries, the role has been filled by a member of the Habsburg dynasty, Europe's dominant ruler of vast lands that include Spain and its overseas colonies. The emperors are staunch Catholics, but their Holy Roman Empire is as religiously split as the rest of the continent.
Okay, so these other darker yellow are other Catholic places, just not directly under the Habsburgs. I also looked up the Battle of Vienna, and now I forget. Not that important, but Battle of... I looked it up and I already forget. So there's 1683, a little bit after. Okay.
The Holy Roman Empire is as religiously split as the rest of the continent. Since a treaty of 1555, religious peace has held together under the principle of cuius regio, eius religio, whose realm, whose religion. meaning all subjects must follow the faith of their ruler. But it is unworkable to impose belief from above. Lutheran and Calvinist missionaries compete for converts. Many Catholics are ready to fight to reunify Christendom under the Pope.
I always forget what Calvinist is. Calvinist. John Calvin, predestination. So is it a Protestant or a Catholic offshoot? Okay. God has already chosen a select few for salvation. Oh, okay, all right.
Holy Roman Empire is a powder keg, primed to explode.
I would rather rule over a desert than a country of heretics. That's not a good start.
The first sparks flare in Bohemia. The local nobility is religiously diverse and fiercely independent. Here, Bohemian Hussites broke with Rome a century before the Reformation. But Bohemia is under the direct rule of King Ferdinand, a Habsburg and hardline Catholic. He cancels concessions, demolishes non-Catholic churches. These deliberate provocations anger Bohemia's nobles and reformers. In May 1618, they corner two of Ferdinand's ministers at Prague Castle, subject them to a summary trial, and throw them and their secretary from a high window. The two ministers survive the fall. Catholic allies claim angels saved them. Protestant rebels say they landed in a dung heap.
And they let them. I'm surprised they didn't kind of finish him off after.
One thing
that
is not in doubt. Bohemia is in open rebellion against imperial Catholic rule. The first act of violence in what will soon become the deadliest conflict Europe has ever known. Ferdinand has powerful allies. Duke Maximilian of Bavaria, leader of the Empire's Catholic League. The Duke of Saxony, a Lutheran but whose loyalty has been secured with promises of land. And the might of Habsburg Spain, Europe's greatest power, unwilling to let upheaval in Germany threaten its supply road to the Netherlands. But this imperial faction immediately faces serious threats. The Bohemian rebels besiege Vienna, while a Transylvanian force, supported by the emperor's bitterest enemy, the Ottoman Empire, invades Hungary, torching villages, seizing food, laying waste to the land. The Ottomans hold back from committing their own troops to the invasion force. It's a potent what-if moment from European history, and exactly the sort of alternate history you can explore in Europa Universalis 5. Could you take advantage of the splits in Christendom to carve out a greater Ottoman Empire in Central Europe? Diplomatic as well as military.
I'd imagine the Ottoman thought process was you could take advantage of Christian Europe infighting, but you could also make them stop fighting each other and kind of unite against you. And so maybe it's better to just let them fight out instead of...
means are available to you.
Is that a crazy thing to say?
And dynastic manipulation. In August 1619, emboldened by success on the battlefield, the Bohemians depose Ferdinand and replace him with one of their own and crown him King Frederick. But in a plot twist, the Holy Roman Emperor dies, and Ferdinand is himself elected the new emperor that same month. The Bohemians' local revolt is now an act of treason against imperial authority. the tide begins to turn. Ferdinand enlists the help of Catholic Poland, which sends cavalry forces to harass the Transylvanians. They are driven back into Hungary. In November 1620, an elite Imperial and Catholic League force meets the ill-disciplined rebel army at White Mountain outside Prague. The fighting is brief but bloody. In just over an hour, 1,000 Protestant soldiers are slaughtered. The fledgling Bohemian independence movement appears to have been crushed. But the wider conflict is far from over. And soon, the flames of religious war will spread across the continent.
So Bohemia looks like essentially modern-day Czechia, with some parts of Germany and Poland. And this makes me think, obviously it's many centuries later, but the Sudetenland, right, which Germany wanted to take control of in the start of World War II. Maybe that's not a... It's just interesting to think of like some German-speaking... Not important. Just, okay. We shall not rest until the princes and estates of the Holy Roman Empire of both one and the other religion shall live together in abiding peace. Christian the Fourth
After
of
his
Denmark.
victory at White Mountain, the uncompromising Emperor Ferdinand clamps down. Rebel ringleaders are arrested and executed. Severed heads are put on public display. In 1621, the Emperor's avenging forces descend on the Palatinate, the homelands of Bohemia's usurper king.
Really?
That same year, a truce between Spain and the Dutch expires, and open conflict reignites. It will soon blend into the wider European war between Catholics and Protestants. With Spanish help, Ferdinand's forces spent 3 years crushing all resistance. By the end of 1623, most of Western Germany is under Catholic League occupation. The mostly Protestant lords of northern Germany are alarmed by Catholic armies so close to their borders. In 1625, Christian, King of Denmark and Duke of German Holstein, declares war on Ferdinand and marches south, a preemptive strike to secure his hold over North Germany.
The chins on
Catholic
some of
League
these
forces
rulers.
march north to confront the Danes and their allies. They are led by two brilliant commanders,
Tilly.
Johann Tserclaes, Count of Tilly in the Spanish Netherlands, and Albrecht von Wallenstein.
Okay, so I've been thinking that his name is Tilly, which is a little embarrassing because I've learned about this a few times with him as a figure, but he's the Count of Tilly.
Count of Tilly in the Spanish Netherlands, and Albrecht von Wallenstein, leader of Ferdinand's imperial army in Bohemia. Wallenstein is a Bohemian Protestant, but also a notoriously ambitious mercenary commander. Both men are heroes of the victory at White Mountain. For 3 years, the Catholic forces push the Danes out of Germany, while Wallenstein occupies the Baltic coast. The Danish king has no hope of victory.
Now
In
Sweden's
1629, he surrenders to the Catholics. That same year, Ferdinand doubles down on Catholic supremacy by publishing the Edict of Restitution, a document that rolls back the spread of Protestantism since 1555.
So the Catholics were extremely successful early on, which makes it even more impressive that the Protestants could start to fight back.
Spread of Protestantism since 1555. It is an inflammatory move, utterly unacceptable to Protestants. Even loyal Catholics are dismayed. The powerful princes who elect and support the emperor are known as the imperial electors. In 1630, they gather at Regensburg. They dismiss Wallenstein and reduce the army's size, hoping to de-escalate the conflict and contain Ferdinand's destructive instincts. But their measures go too far.
How do they have the power to do that?
Known as the imperial powerful princes who
Okay. All right. Sorry.
their measure and contain Ferdinand's destructive instincts. But their measures go too far, leaving northern Germany virtually undefended. The timing could not be worse. A violent storm is brewing in the north, and soon it will descend to wreak a terrible, destructive path through their precious empire.
I don't want to hear about neutrality. This is a fight between God and the devil. Gustavus Adolphus, Elector of Brandenburg.
King Gustavus Adolphus of
I know you guys are capable of reading yourself, but I like kind of just...
Sweden is a militant Lutheran who fears a Habsburg presence on the Baltic Sea. He sails south to Pomerania in July. He swiftly brings several North German states to his side, mostly under threat of force, and his numbers swell to almost 40,000. But one place allies with him willingly, the Protestant city of Magdeburg. The response of the Catholic and Imperial forces, now all commanded by the Count of Tilly, is terrible. In May 1631, Tilly storms Magdeburg. Then, according to the city's mayor, the city was given over to murder, burning, plundering, torture, and beatings. Thousands of innocent men, women, and children were murdered and slaughtered in all sorts of merciless and wretched ways. By 10 o'clock that night, the entire city, along with its beautiful town hall and all its churches, lay in ashes.
Yeah, I think that religion infused in this conflict can have an ironic effect on how people act, in that it kind of helps to dehumanize your opponent if you see them as heretics and whatnot. And so, ironically, religion can, well, I don't know if it's irony. You know what I mean? Like, it gives an excuse to humans who don't need another excuse to be even more brutal than we are. So
20,000 are massacred, almost the entire population. The senseless slaughter is powerful propaganda for the Protestant cause. Pamphlets and illustrated letters circulate, detailing the horrors and fueling a cycle of violent reprisal. Many Catholics will face a revenge called Magdeburg Mercy. The unluckiest of them are forced to sample the infamous Schwedentrunk, the Swedish drink. Victims have their mouths pried open and their stomachs filled with water, filth, and excrement, up to the point of bursting. Sweden's intervention unleashes the kaleidoscopic horrors of the 30 Years' War.
So that'd be another interesting alternate history. What if those princes and head of the army in that, I forget what it was called here, in that edict that drastically lowered the army's power, which enabled the Swedish to kind of invade without as much resistance as they would have. So that'd be cool. Alternate history. What if they didn't do that? Maybe Sweden couldn't have landed in northern Germany and won battles. Tell them, say, this war feeds itself.
17th century armies sweep like locusts across Europe. Most are mercenaries, paid in the plunder they seize from conquered lands. They strip entire regions bare before they move on. Most of these armies are ordered in the Spanish system. It is based around the tercio, a large square formation composed of pikemen and musketeers. They are supplemented by cavalry, used for scouting, harassment, or well-timed charges, and regiments of artillery. Together, muskets can be devastating. but individually they are inaccurate and slow to reload. Musketeers are also vulnerable to fast-moving cavalry.
Yeah, I would have expected this to be reversed, to have the musketeers inside the pikemen.
Require robust formations of pikemen to defend them. The Spanish system has dominated for a century, but recently things have begun to change. New Dutch-style infantry formations, called battalions, are smaller and less deep, with a larger proportion of firearms. This makes them less durable, but also more flexible, mobile, and capable of firing denser, more deadly volleys.
Father of modern warfare.
And there is a push to integrate artillery with the rest of the army. Gustavus Adolphus is an early adopter and perfects the new system. His aggressive and innovative tactics, with smaller units, more firearms, and light artillery integrated into every regiment, make his army dazzlingly quick, mobile, and lethal for its size. They also win him a reputation as the father of modern warfare, and praise from men like Karl von Clausewitz and Napoleon Bonaparte as one of the greatest military commanders of all time. In the summer of 1631, he seems unstoppable.
The Snow King will go on melting as he comes south. Snow King.
In September 1631, the Swedish army of Gustavus Adolphus, bolstered by troops from Saxony, meets Count Tilly near a village called Breitenfeld. With nearly 40,000 on both sides, it is one of the largest battles of the 30 Years' War, and a clash between two of its most celebrated commanders. Tilly's cavalry charges the Swedish right. They are met with devastating fire and are repulsed 8 times. At the other end of the line, Catholic cavalry routs the Saxons on Gustavus's left flank. But as Catholic forces advance, a gap opens up between them, which Gustavus exploits with a devastating counterattack. Tilly is caught flat-footed. His ranks dissolve and flee, leaving at least 7,000 dead on the field, with almost as many taken prisoner. The Swede and Saxon dead number just over 2,000. Breitenfeld is a crushing victory for Gustavus, and Tilly's first major defeat, a turning point that opens a pathway for the Swedes into the south. At Rhode, Tilly tries to stop them, but fails, and the old Catholic general is mortally wounded. Emperor Ferdinand turns to an old ally, Wallenstein. In July 1632, Gustavus has moved north again, to Nuremberg. Wallenstein sets up camp nearby. Both sides struggle to find food and are ravaged by starvation and disease. Wallenstein breaks camp to scour Saxony for supplies. Gustavus follows and offers battle near the town of Lützen. He needs a quick victory before Wallenstein can be reinforced. But a thick fog spoils his plan. In the chaos, Gustavus leads a cavalry charge, loses his way in the fog, and is killed. On paper, Lützen is another Swedish victory, but the king's death is a grievous blow. The Protestant cause reels from the loss of the Lion of the North, one of history's great military innovators and leaders. If Gustavus Adolphus had walked away from Lützen, history may have been very different. And such mishaps and accidents are sometimes argued to be as important to history as its great structural forces, like culture and demography. Europa Universalis 5 is a game in which you can reach for many levers to influence the destiny of your chosen nation-state. But the unexpected can still throw you off course, just as it did for the Kingdom of Sweden. In this sophisticated...
Imagine starting out as like one of the very small German states and then coming out on top somehow.
Just as it did for the Kingdom of Sweden. In this sophisticated sandbox for creating alternate history, the test will be to see if you can weather such storms and push on to empire and lasting glory.
Starting the 1300s.
That winter, Swedish troops are mutinous and desperate. But Wallenstein holds back his forces in the east, near his own estates.
Does anyone play that? Like, if you play long enough, can you, like, get to modern day? Or does it just stop at some point? Sorry, back.
Swedish troops are mutinous and desperate. But Wallenstein holds back his forces in the east, near his own estates. In January 1634, Emperor Ferdinand learns Wallenstein has been negotiating his own separate peace. He is declared a traitor, cornered by imperial officers at his headquarters, and he too is killed. It's the end of an era. 3 giants are dead: Tilly, Gustavus, and now Wallenstein. The Emperor turns his attention to the Swedish scourge. 33,000 imperial troops move into Bavaria. 26,000 Emperor turns his attention to the Swedish scourge. 33,000 imperial troops move into Bavaria. 26,000 Swedes meet them in pitched battle at Nördlingen. Without their totemic leader, the Swedes stumble to disaster. They lose half their army, a potentially fatal blow. But it draws a new player into the fight.
France switch?
France.
The interests of his state and the interests of religion are two entirely different things. Cardinal Richelieu.
1635. War has raged for 17 years. Hundreds of German villages lie in ruins. Food shortages are chronic. Reports of cannibalism flourish. Besieged soldiers eating dead comrades. Women devouring their own children. Years of pillaging, banditry, and warfare have forced people everywhere into desperation and despair. The anti-imperial forces are in disarray. Emperor Ferdinand offers a way out. He swears to halt his assault on Protestantism. A general amnesty is proclaimed. Alliances with foreign powers forbidden. Protestant princes flock to accept the terms. But the war does not end. A powerful new player will see to that. Though Catholic, France is in...
You can only know what a power truly wants when they have the ability to crush anyone. Because if they have some doubt in their success, then they're going to offer some things that are a bit more palatable. You know?
Encircled by Habsburg domains, a grave strategic threat. Cardinal Richelieu, France's ruthlessly pragmatic chief minister, has bankrolled anti-Habsburg forces for years. He now commits to open conflict and declares war on Spain. But Richelieu immediately faces a crisis. The Rhine Valley is secured by France's German allies, but Spanish forces push into France from the north and east. They get within 70 miles of Paris before they are repelled. Meanwhile, the Swedish army is in a dismal state, unpaid, badly supplied, and mutinous. But French money and fresh reinforcements allow them to fight on. And then, another bolt out of the blue. In February 1637, Ferdinand II, the man whose intransigence threw Europe into war, dies aged 58. His son and successor, Ferdinand III, is capable, level-headed, and more flexible. But he lacks his father's ruthlessness and is caught off guard by renewed Swedish energy. Johan Barner, the aggressive Swedish commander-in-chief, conducts a series of audacious campaigns and wins upset victories at Wittstock and Chemnitz. But his supply lines cannot support a sustained advance, and each time he is forced to withdraw. Then he, too, dies of illness in May 1641. The following year, his successors once again meet the imperial.
I'm curious what illnesses are killing these people at relatively young age. Well, for the time, I'm not sure. But is it just like dysentery, or is it smallpox, or what's that big one? After the T. No, I don't know.
At Breitenfeld and win another crushing victory. The Swedes entrenched themselves in Saxony, near the Habsburg heartlands.
I gotta shut up.
Crushing victory. Then meet the Imperials at Breitenfeld and win another crushing victory. The Swedes entrenched themselves in Saxony, near the Habsburg heartlands. 1643 will prove a pivotal year. In May, 21-year-old Louis de Bourbon, Duke of Enghien, smashes a Spanish army at Rocroi. It is one of France's greatest military victories and secures its northern border from the Spanish threat. The French then move into southern Germany, but their advance grinds to a halt at Tuttlingen, thanks to the efforts of the steely Bavarian commander Franz von Mercy. That same autumn, France's uneasy alliance with the Swedes faces crisis as the Swedish army marches north to invade Denmark. It is an opportunistic land grab by the government in Stockholm, spurred on by a more hopeful development. Peace talks have begun in the Westphalian towns of Osnabrück and Münster. Everyone wants peace, but all seek a strong bargaining position, ensuring talks and the war will drag on for 5 more years. Southwestern Germany is ripped apart by clashing armies, until Mercy is killed at Allerheim, along with 9,000 other casualties. The road to Bavaria lies open, but the French can't take full advantage. Victory has crippled their army.
There is no instance of a country having benefited from prolonged warfare. Sun Tzu.
1645. The Swedes have returned to Saxony. Pushing south, they almost reach Vienna. But with too few men to take the city, they swing north to loot Moravia and fall back. By 1646, the French have regathered their strength and march against Bavaria. A Swedish force joins them and maneuvers past Emperor Ferdinand's main army, leaving Bavaria virtually undefended.
Sweden.
To save his duchy, Bavaria's Duke Maximilian, one of the few leaders in place since 1618, offers peace, only to rejoin the war a few months later. The French and Swedes have had enough and decide on a joint decisive blow. In May 1648, The last Imperial field army is shattered at Zumarshausen. The remnants fall back into the far south, leaving Bavaria's countryside exposed to plunder, pillaging, and wanton violence. While the remains of the Bavarian and Imperial armies hold up a desperate defense, a separate Swedish force marches south from Saxony and reaches Prague. In a twist of fate, they capture Jaroslav Borgita, one of the men thrown from the castle window 30 years before.
Where did he live?
But the Swedes can't take the city. Both sides are exhausted, down to their last reserves of stores and energy. Then, in early November,
I know that he lived after falling out of the window, but I'm just like, they're just like, okay, well, he lived, we're not going to pursue him down there. So.
And energy are exhausted, down to their last reserves of stores and energy. Then, in early November, momentous news arrives. Peace. After 5 years of discussion in Westphalia, conditions have finally been set. The terms: Dutch independence from Spain, along with that of Switzerland, one of few imperial realms that has managed to stay neutral in the war. Greater religious tolerance in Germany. There is to be no forced conversion of subjects, except in the lands under direct Habsburg rule. And territorial concessions to the major anti-Habsburg powers.
What was the Germany concession?
Except in the land neutral in the war. Greater religious tolerance in Germany. There is to be no forced conversion of subjects, except in the lands under direct Habsburg rule. And territorial concessions to the major anti-Habsburg powers. France receives Alsace, while Sweden gains Western Pomerania and 3 important German ports. After 30 years of war, it is a peace everyone can live with.
They say the terrible war is now over, but it still doesn't feel like peace. Everywhere there's jealousy, hate, and worse things. The war has taught us such.
The 30 Years' War was a disaster unprecedented in Europe's history. A local revolt over religious rights that reignited ancient rivalries and fed on personal ambitions until nearly all Europe found itself at war. An estimated 5 to 8 million died, most from famine and disease. The hardest hit areas lost nearly 2/3 of their inhabitants.
Jesus Christ.
1/5 of all Germans perished, a much larger share than in either World War.
I was about to say, that's probably more considering population. I didn't think it was that much more.
Even after the Peace of Westphalia, Spain and France...
So not just of the male population, of everyone.
Even after the Peace of Westphalia, Spain and France fought on for 11 more years. The Holy Roman Empire, though weakened, survived for about another 150 years. Finally dissolved in 1806 during the Napoleonic Wars. The Treaty of Westphalia is often viewed as a turning point in world history. The first modern secular international peace conference, and a major step toward the rise of Europe's nation-states. Historians continue to debate Westphalia's importance, but one thing is not in doubt. The 30 Years' War cast a long and terrible shadow. For 300 years, it remained a terrifying, cautionary tale of how one small act of violent resistance might spiral into a senselessly destructive total war. A warning that was, ultimately, unheeded.
I don't even know what I want to say. I don't want to sound too pessimistic here, but yeah, we can forget things. I think that's why history is so important to learn, is that to learn that what humans are capable of doing to each other. So
thank you again to Europa Universalis for sponsoring this video. Follow the link in our pinned comment to find out more about this unique, historical grand strategy game. And thanks, as always, to the Patreon supporters who helped to make this channel possible. From builders such as Axel Urig, Corey Carlson, and Hamods, to citizens like Jesse, Corey Hubble, and George Haynes, and heroes like Akran Ghani Majid. And now you can also support the channel by joining the ranks of the Grognards, our valued YouTube members who gain access to loyalty badges, custom emojis, and merch discounts. Click the membership link on our channel page to sign up now.
Great video by Epic History. I'm not surprised. They always have fantastic content. And I knew it was a brutal war going into it. And I noticed a few battles that I had learned about. It takes me... I've never been the greatest learner. I love learning about history, and so I keep going at it because I enjoy it so much. But I often need to just watch things over and over again to eventually get, you know, a foothold and really know what I'm talking about. It seems like this is the first... I don't know the first modern war, but it seems to be a giant turning point in how warfare is fought. A lot thanks to Gustavus Adolphus. Not just the increased use of firearms, but the less centralized tactics that he had that we see to this day. So, France is a fascinating piece here, just because they were on the Catholic side, but sided with the Swedish. So, obviously saying that there's that quote that, you know, religion and your country's goal aren't always the same thing. So fascinating. The religious component of it. See, religion, you guys disagree with me. Obviously, anything I say wrong, I want you to say, hey, Connor, you're wrong. I disagree. Whatever. I would love to see it. Answering any of my questions. You guys are always good. But with religion, it's like a lot of the time it can keep people from doing bad things. A lot from, you know, maybe from a fear or just idealism. But if used in a different way, it can make people, I think, even more violent, because it's like, oh, I don't want to kill or do something to these people. It could have a effect on how I'm treated in the afterlife or whatever. But as soon as it's like, well, they're not even Catholic or they're not Protestant, and so I'm actually doing a good thing by doing this. The same can go with the Crusades as well. Is that, you know, I'm not one of those people, I'm not religious, but I'm not one of those people who think religion is, you know, this pure cause of just bad things. I think it could be a cause for good things and make things even worse. And I think the 30 Years' War, Crusades, good example of that. So, fascinating. Love y'all. Hope you're all doing well. Again, you guys are awesome at answering any questions I had. Love to see them in the comments. Hope everyone's doing well. See you guys next time. We'll keep on learning together. Bye, guys.